What up?
What's up,
Episode
shitbags?
27.
Welcome back, episode 27. Like Brendan said, for those of you guys that are watching, you might have seen a little new logo up there. I found out how to mirror my camera now, so I'm able to point where I'm actually pointing, and I love that instead of fucking it up like I used to do. So, anyway, we're getting better each time. We keep talking about it. We're figuring shit out. We're getting better. But for those of you who didn't notice, we got a new fourth sponsor. Most recently, Cooper with a special guest on Brendan's
Cooper,
side.
he's on mine.
Toxic Suppression. Can't thank those guys enough now. For those of you that remember the episode that we had the guys from Victim Drag Strap from Kansas City, Toxic Suppression are the guys that supply that. So they are where you can order your Victim Drag Strap. We've got a couple things else on there too. There's some EV stuff, and I know just some other random firefighting stuff that they sell. Pretty cool guys. We've been in contact with them. Pretty cool that we got to work out and that they're able to help us out and add a little sponsor, which is fantastic. Because with their help, we are going to be launching some sweatshirts. So by the time this episode comes out, Jobtown should have something come up with, and we should have that out and be working on getting the orders put out and doing some cool sweatshirt for this fall weather coming up. So,
heck yeah,
awesome that we keep growing. It's been so cool. And yes, we got Toxic Suppression, we got Crew First Culture, Taylor's Tins, and Jobtown. I mean, show them all some love. Like, we wouldn't be here without them, and it's just cool that we can keep growing and doing some stuff because we want to be able to give back and do some cool shit. So, yeah,
and get your questions in.
Yeah.
Get your questions in.
You guys suck at that. You guys,
my brain's fried every time.
We get like 1 or 2 questions every 4 guests. Come on. There's got to be some questions out there. There's got to be some people that
ask them. No stupid questions. I ask a lot of stupid questions.
Yeah, we'll tell you if it's stupid, and we won't put them on the podcast, so you don't have to worry about that. So you just embarrass in front of us, which we embarrass ourselves for a living. So that works great.
I love doing it.
Anyway, let's get into this episode. We got a great guest. We were just talking about it's been a long time since we actually first met, or I first met Austin. And he's got a cool story. He's got some cool lessons and a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. So we'll stop taking his time and bring him on. Austin, welcome.
Austin.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Well, for starters, why don't you go ahead and give a little introduction, tell the people about yourself.
So, father to 4 kids, been married about 8 years, been in the fire service for just over 7 years. Started as paid on call in Wadena, and I was there for just about 4 years. Then I moved and got on at Osakis as a volunteer. And here in June of this year, I actually got hired on full-time in Moorhead. So kind of going through the roads and finally got where I wanted to be and doing it full-time.
Awesome, man.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, like we said, it's been a long time since we first met you, but it was cool to see that transition and get to talk to you. I've seen you a couple times, but going from that volunteer career, which is pretty cool. And we'll have a little bit of time for you to talk about that part as well. But the first question that we have, just diving right into it, is where did you discover your passion for training?
So kind of right out of Fire 1 and 2 back in 2017, I was going through it and I was really, the fire service is something that I really wanted to do. And so as I was going through my Fire 1 and 2, I had the ability that after I went through that I was actually able to kind of shadow the training company that I was working for a couple of years. It was like 6 months after I got my Fire 1 and 2, and I spent that and was able to, learn the ins and outs and learn more about fire service outside of the paid on call department I was on. And I also met, like Jeff Rothmeyer, Nick Ledeen, about a year or so into my career as paid on call, and really kind of started going down the rabbit hole of search, listening to those guys teach, and it kind of really pushed me down that search road, and always wanting to learn more about it, learning different ways to do things, and trying to feed that to other people in the fire service, just trying to get that out there a little bit more and all of that. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's sometimes the best way to learn is to teach yourself. So I mean that's what they say, right? You listen, watch, and then teach, and then you got it locked in. So that's been one of the funnest things for me, and the best parts to learn is when you teach it, you really understand it. Especially if you teach to friends or people that know it, and then they call you out on your bullshit, and you're like, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Right.
Like, that's
Thank
fantastic.
You taught me something.
Yeah.
And that's one big thing I look at too is, when I was strictly just on the paid on call or the volunteer department, I'd only get so much training hours with that. And, some of it wasn't as in depth as I would have liked. Well, by being able to be an instructor now, I have the ability to go out and go teach these things, but I'm also able to pick up little nuggets from these other departments on, maybe a different way to do something, or, be able to perfect what I'm doing a little bit more each time I go teach.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. Next question that we got, this can be either day one of career or day one POC, whatever one sticks in your mind. What piece of advice were you given on day one that stuck with you?
I don't know if this would necessarily be day one, but
yeah, day one, week one, month one, year one.
I guess one of the big things I look at is, there's a lot of negativity in the fire service, and you only have the handful that are truly passionate about what we do. And I think the biggest thing that has always stuck with me is, no matter the negativity, no matter the bullshit politics, any of that, always stay true to the passion and strive to be better each day.
Here we go.
That's
Amen.
Awesome.
Reach.
Wow. We've talked about it a couple times where you get those kind of the old salty firefighters when you come on, that maybe you're brand new, you get your first fire and you're all giddy afterwards before everything, and like, I remember when I was your age. Like, just wait until you've done it for 10 years, and you won't be so excited anymore. Like, no, that's not how I want to be. Like,
yep,
I want to be grinning ear to ear, last day of 30 years, like on a fire. Yep, this is exactly what I wanted to do and what I'm happy to be doing. So
absolutely,
yeah.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
That's awesome. Next one. What conference and or training do you think every new firefighter should attend?
So I haven't really been to a lot of conferences. I'll say, I've been to Sawdust the last 2 years, and I have gained so much knowledge from going to that both years. Different ways, to look at things and all that. I would say maybe not necessarily a single conference, but just going to some of these bigger conferences that have some of these more well-known guys that have been on the job and been through some shit, that any of them that you can go to would be definitely, useful.
Right.
Absolutely.
I believe is getting out there, besides your certification classes, getting out there and getting outside training from a new department or new, somewhere outside your department to gain knowledge from other people is very beneficial. Any conference or training.
Yep. And I'm pretty stoked just with next week. I'm a co-founder of a conference around home here. And next weekend will be our first year, and I'm stoked to just bring that to, my area, because we don't have enough of it. So being able to get some of these more well-known guys in that have a plethora of knowledge to share is huge.
Yeah. We'll have a little spot at the end where you can shout out that conference. Unfortunately, when this episode airs, it'll be first week in October, so you'll be just wrapping up. So hopefully it keeps going. You go next year, you can give a shout out. We can get some guys there because, we got a lot of local guests and we got a lot of people or local listeners and a lot of people from across the country. So anytime you can come up to the Midwest area, it's fun. We know how to drink. We got.
Oh yeah.
The socials are a great time after the parties. It's even better. So, but it's awesome that it really has started picking up. You mentioned Sawdust. I mean, in Wisconsin, we got just all these trainings that are starting out and conferences that are starting to pop up, because otherwise it was very much in the South and kind of middle area of the country. So it's been pretty cool that that's starting to make its way up here, and that now we don't have to take a plane somewhere. We can just drive a couple hours and be at a cool training. So that's awesome. Next, our favorite question. This one's going to be hard for this one to go away. This is going to be asked to everybody because it goes so many different ways. So you get no explanation. If you watch some of the episodes, you've probably noticed the question or know what's coming, but you take this wherever comes to your brain first. And the question is, why are we here?
Oh, a lot of different ways that one can go. Absolutely. I guess the biggest thing I look at is being able to protect our citizens in a time of need, be there for them, and help them in some of their worst days. I've dealt with some of these. I've dealt with a few different types of calls and stuff that are challenging, and I look back and it's like, what would I have done in their spot? And trying to be there and be compassionate for them and doing what we can to try to better their day in their situation, and being there to help with saving lives and just doing what we can for our communities.
Absolutely.
Well put.
Yeah. And you're going to get a chance to dive in however deep you want there. One of the things that really stuck with me that we've talked about a couple of times when we first met was your story and how you've gotten to put some of this to the test. So this next, our first of our kind of personal questions is, did your search tactics change after you made your grab?
I don't know if I'd say they necessarily changed fully, but I've expanded on them since. I truly haven't had, I would much say, another opportunity or situation like I had. So for all the listeners that don't know, I'm going to dig in a little bit to what the story is. So April 7th, 2021, when I was on Wadena, we got paged out to a mutual aid house fire. And there was reports of a 22-month-old still inside. The original department that was paged in their district, when we had showed up, they had guys inside searching. We showed up a couple of minutes after they did. And I ended up kind of I was in the backseat of our first arriving engine on that call. And I was packed up, went by the front door. There was a ladder thrown to a second story window, and they had guys searching inside. One of the officers from that department asked me to go assist their personnel inside the upstairs. So I went up the ladder in the window and noticed that there were a couple of guys to the right of the room. And so I kind of darted off to the left since they seemed to have that side covered. And I had located the 22-month-old off the top of the bed in what was the fire room. She did survive. She had a long road to recovery. She had 80% third-degree burns. But I think in that situation, it was just kind of a right place, right time to go assist, as well as, you know, the path that I had already been down with search and the knowledge, limited knowledge, I guess I had beyond maybe what other people had, kind of assisted me with that whole situation. So I guess circle back to your question, I don't know if it really changed anything, but it drove me to want to dig deeper into learning different ways, better ways to search. And, you know, because all of our situations are going to be a little bit different. So just being able to be open-minded to, you know, maybe a different or better way to do things is kind of the road that I've been down for the past couple of years, and probably the road I'll be down for a little while, just to keep learning about it and things like that. I'm so passionate about learning about search and things like that I want to keep trying to build that.
Absolutely. I think it was a great example. Just you mentioned Lindy, and we've had the honor of having him on the podcast, and he's kind of coined that 30 years, 30 seconds. You know, you have the dedication to stay plugged in for 30 years for just that 30 seconds of an opportunity. Yep. And I think that was a great example, like you said, that you were already into that search world, that you were already plugged in. We hear a lot of stories where guys, and you know, the good part is they got up and they identified the issues, but we hear lots of stories where people are not plugged in, and then they have a wake-up call that really punches them in the gut, and then they get plugged in, and that's great too. But it was awesome to hear that you were plugged in, you were trying to learn, and then you had that opportunity right off the bat, where some guys got to go that full 30 years, but you had the right stuff, what you needed, and it's just driven you further to keep up and keep learning those new things.
Yep, sorry to interrupt, but I got a house fire. So Bryce, you want to take over?
All right, go get him.
Right. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Have a good day.
Well, all right then. We'll have to see if he gets anything from there.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, they are a combination. They are a combination. Obviously, I've moved apartments, but so they're full-time and paid on call anytime there's a actual working fire. It's all available off duty. Are supposed to come in. So
okay.
Yeah, so there you go. That's
a lot like what we have up in Moorhead, because we're 11 is our max staffing per shift. So anytime we get a working fire, they're typically calling back anybody available off shift to
they got 8. So, and Brennan's 2 minutes from the station, so he'll probably actually make the second engine. So yeah, they just had an apartment fire. Now they got another one there. So sweet. Good for him. Let's see if he gets to use any of the training that we were talking about,
right?
And be in the right place. But no, I guess we'll just keep going. Just you and I, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we got all the questions, and that's awesome. So yeah, the search tactics is great that you kept diving in. And yeah, that story, I remember it was really impactful for me because we already kind of figured out 3 years ago. So I would just become full time. And coming from a volunteer spot, you would hear the stuff of like, it's not going to happen here, or we're not going to be there in time. My volunteer was very small, and we have the current full-time department that I'm on in the area, so they would always beat us there. But you were mutual aid on a volunteer department, and made a grab. So it was really an awakening. It was one of the first trainings that I got taken to after being full-time. And it was a really important and impactful time. So yeah, it's awesome. Glad that we could finally have you on here to share your story and to hit that part too.
Yep. And that's one of those big things too. You mentioned, volunteer paid on call. You always get told, oh, well, it's not going to happen to us. It hasn't happened in 20 years, blah, 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 blah. you know.
Yep.
And I look back, and even after I left, so that happened in April of 21. I left Wadena in June of 21, and they had multiple fires and have had multiple grabs since then on that department, you know. And it's like, we can't be complacent to whether you're full-time, paid on call, volunteer, it doesn't matter. You can't get to the complacent mindset of, oh, well, that's never going to happen here, because that's when our citizens that we're there to serve are going to suffer the most, is if we get in that complacent mindset that it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So now we'll kind of keep expanding on that, but going into the role that you fell into now and that you had that passion for. How are you teaching today's search culture?
So currently, I've kind of taken a little bit of a step away from teaching recently, just because of the job change and stuff, trying to focus on, you know, my career spot and trying to learn the ways that we do things up there, and you know, all of that. But when it comes to teaching search, it's one of those things that I guess the biggest thing that I want to try to get past is this whole, we can't be off a line. We always have to be on a line. You know, we need to try to build up these firefighters that aren't going to get to a point that they're afraid to be off the line. You know, we need to be able to, you know, target searches. Firefighter Rescue Survey has so much data out there, you know, with bedrooms being that highest priority. And why can't we be searching those areas if they're most likely to be, you know, somebody in there? And just trying to open up that closed mentality to making people understand building construction, layout, things like that, because you really come to look at it is when you look at a structure, if you're a decent firefighter, you should be able to generally tell, you know, the layout from the exterior.
Absolutely.
Everything's a little different. I mean, hoarding conditions make things harder and things like that. But if we can have
harder and easier at the same time. There's only one path. Harder and easier at the same time. There's only one path in a hoarder house. So that is where someone's going to be. Once it starts caving in, then you're fucked. But
But just opening that mindset that people need to understand that when search is going on, your fire suppression should be happening at the same time. And it's, you know, they're working in lieu of each other, to where your fire suppression is supporting your search, but your search is supporting your fire suppression. You know, I guess that would probably be the biggest thing that I try to make people understand when I'm teaching.
Absolutely. And we'll dive into this rabbit hole, because that's exactly the same as, you know, the search for fire, search for life. Like, if you, that hose line, maybe it's just because I have ADHD and I don't like being tied down or whatever it may be, but like, I hate being on a hose line. Like, you give me a can and a Halligan, and I will find that fire. You can knock down a lot of fire. You know, maybe you can't put out the fire with the can, but a lot of times you can. And at the bare minimum, you can knock it down, close that door. You call to your hose line, because I've been on the hose line many times, and it's a bitch to take a hose line through a structure. I mean, you could be efficient with it, but it's still a bitch. People's houses aren't clean, you know, and there's corners, there's everything. And the worst is when you go the wrong way, and then you realize you're the wrong way, and you got to go backtrack. And now you're like, oh, fuck, you've wasted air. You've wasted time. Like, you get somebody in there who's just quick, got a can, 2 people, they find the fire and they go, hey, you know, hose or attack team, it's 2nd story, Delta side, come up the front stairs and you'll be right there. Like, you can make things so easy. And then now you make conditions better. Now you keep searching. You go to those bedrooms, you go to all those rooms, and it seems so much easier. And this is where it was unfortunate Brennan had to leave because I haven't gotten a chance to read it. But Chief Rhodes just came out with an article talking about a lot of this stuff. And Brennan just read it this morning.
Yep, I read that the other day on shift. I saw that come across, and I was like, we've got some downtime. I'm gonna go jump on the computer and I'm gonna read this.
Yep, that's what I was gonna do today. Because just off the title alone, I was like, yes.
Yep. And I think the other big thing too, when it comes to teaching search, is it goes well beyond just the firefighters. Mm-hmm. You know, the ones that are going to be on the line, the ones that, you know, are going to be going in. It's also trying to get captains, lieutenants, VCs, chiefs to trust their personnel and have them understand that their firefighters are trained to a level of competency. And you know, and that's a big thing too, is it's more than just the guys on the ground. It's the chiefs and command and things like that we need to change that mentality too, with, you know, well, there's too much risk. Well, risk to me can be completely different to risk to somebody else. You know, if it's understanding the competency level with your guys on the ground. And you know, that's the big thing too, is it's getting past them and getting into the command as well, but making sure that they understand that their personnel, if they're trained to the right level, then that risk is going to be less than somebody that might not be as competent and knowledgeable in that aspect.
Yeah, that was something that we were and still are. I know how that crew still works, but when I was in Beaver Dam with Brennan, and that was something we were extremely proud of, was with our captain lieutenant. I mean, any fire scene that I was on with them, you know, after a little bit, it takes time. It's like, you know, with my current department, I'm sure we'll get there, but I've got experience, but they don't actually know what my experience is. So you got to earn that. You have to start from square one. But we would have a fire, and we really didn't even have to say anything to each other. We knew what seat you were in, what job you had to be done, and what was going to happen. You know, our lieutenant, our captain, they would call out if something was abnormal, if something changed from our normal plan that we have to audible about, or that we should know about. But otherwise, we knew who was going to the nearest bedroom, who was going to the most affected bedroom, where the attack line was going. They had their plan. They knew they got to figure it out. And you found the fire, you let the attack line know, and it was a well-oiled machine. And it was a blast to just be on that and see that. And it's such an uplifting feeling being that line guy too, that your captain, your lieutenant, whoever it is, they know your skills. They understand that, hey, I trust this person. I don't got to micromanage them. I don't have to tell them what to do. They know what to do. All I have to do is tell them if they got to think of something new. Like, they know what to do. My job is to look over them. So, hey, this floor is soft. Hey, this wall is bulging. Hey, you know, the fire's heavily involved on this delta side. Like, things that they know that we can handle, but that we got to get the heads up for. That's what they're really there for. So that's it's fantastic. And like I said, I'm sure we'll get there. And that's what every crew should be striving for, is getting that comfort and that trust in all your members, that you're on that same page.
Yep. And I also think the other thing, you know, that I have noticed is, you know, that 2-word thing that always comes over the radio when somebody pulls up on the scene, whether it's PD or somebody. You know,
we were just talking about this. We were just giving one of our guys, I had a last shift, we had a porch fire that an off-duty officer, literally he just got off duty. He was driving home, drove past this house. The porch was on fire, and got out, got the people out, put in and knocked it down. But our AMBO got on scene, and they said,
fully involved.
Yep.
And that drives me nuts. That drives me nuts
later, when
because
the cops say, "Oh my God,
know,
you go."
It's one of those things that you hear that come over the radio, and your aggressiveness goes down a little bit, I guess, because
Oh yeah.
the whole fact that, okay, well, it's fully involved. Well, okay, now we have to knock down fire, but that's it. But the thing I look at is that 360 has to be done. Because if you have a well-involved alpha side, but you go around to your Charlie side and you have searchable space, that's not going to be, it takes that fully involved out of it. Now you have a well-involved structure on the alpha side, but you have searchable space on the Charlie side. So it's that whole thought process that I think is one of the things where in the fire service we struggle a little bit. Not all departments, but a lot from what I have noticed in my area. And it's like, come on, let's do the 360 before you jump on the radio and say it's fully involved just because you have fire blown out of every orifice on the alpha side, but you don't have anything on the Charlie. We gotta stay open-minded in that situation.
I always would just kind of describe what I saw. So like I tried to stay away from the involved. In that I would just heavy smoke and fire. Like that was small, maybe one window. I say fire coming out one window. Like I tried to stay out there because even you're well involved. We've talked about even for search for everything, you usually say things in three because the first time not really listening. So that those engines coming in, you say well involved and they just hear involved and they're like, okay, fully involved. Like, so it's one of those things. Yeah. We talked about it all the time is not slowing down, not really, we talked about it for fire alarms for, you're fully involved. Like it really didn't change how you responded. We were still turning out, we were still preparing. You expect fire, expect victims. And it's, it makes sense. Like, you treat everyone the same. You won't be surprised. Obviously I've seen on search culture and there's people that like try and call out, like McWilliams, he talks about it a lot. He's like, so you're saying if you get a report of 3 kids trapped in the house, that's not changing how you respond to a fire alarm? Like, no. Okay. Like the initial mindset is not changing, but if someone says there's 3 kids trapped in there, of course there's a little bit extra adrenaline, but it's not adrenaline that wasn't there when it was a fire alarm. It's just amped up a little bit. Like, there's always people trying to call out on that. But like, oh, you're really saying that you're going to respond to every single fire the exact same? Like, come on, you know what we're saying. Like,
yeah. And that's one thing, I learned just, especially with that search culture page of Justin's, a lot of the nuggets are in the comment section, You pick up 100 times more reading through the comments than you are going to just reading his post. And I had the pleasure to, I had the pleasure to actually talk to him last year at Sawdust when he did his presentation, and the openness that he's willing to talk about and, challenge your thought process is just awesome. I was able to stand and talk to him for a good half hour, and he was open to what I had to say, but at the same time, he was challenging some of that thought process I had because maybe I don't have the knowledge he does.
Yeah.
But that's the big thing when you go to these conferences and you can sit and talk with these guys, and you might have a way of thinking that you've been taught or that you've learned over time, that you can sit down and talk to these guys and they're going to challenge it and they're going to explain why. And that's huge.
Yeah. That's what I'm meaning by he responds, but it's not demeaning or not trying to like talk down to you. Like it's actually trying to find out. It's to challenge that thought process, to listen, because he wants to be proven wrong or to learn just as much as everybody. So when someone comments something, maybe some of us, or maybe even him, maybe everybody reads it at first and is like, all right, jack off. Like, really, what are we fucking trying to do here? But then he's still going to respond and like try and dive into that and find out. And then, it turns into a great conversation. It's not a screaming match. It's not a dick swinging contest. Like you actually are trying to learn from each other. And that's one of the coolest things is because when you hear him talk or you see his post, like he seems very like honed in, or like he knows he's got his plan, his idea. He's sharing his message. But then you start to talk to him and he's open. He's like, yeah, this is what I'm saying, but that's because that's what I've learned. Like he is so into investigation, or not investigation, but just reading and digging into all these line of duty deaths, all these searches, all these grabs. Like he is in a book. He's trying to write his own book. Like he's got all this knowledge. So when he shares stuff, it's usually because he has vetted it, and it's the best way to do it for his situation. But he's open to all these reasons that'll come out.
I also think it helps too. He's on a department that is very, very positive search culture, and he has a lot of life experience with it too, and stuff like that. So adding that into it to actually doing some of this stuff on the truck and stuff like that is huge.
Yeah. No, it's search has become a real passion, and it's awesome to see where it's going. And like I said, I love the rabbit hole that we dove into there, because it's a very interesting thing. We talk a lot about going to Fire One, then being told forget everything you do, but search is that really true kind of example of that. Like Fire Attack doesn't change much. It really doesn't change much, but search from fire school to here, and it's getting better slowly and surely, but like it's a big change. And like you said, a lot of people are scarred or kind of scared to go off of that line or not have that lifeline, when there's, I think his post just the other day, he was sharing there's been one line of duty in the last 20 years for search or something. There's one that he's investigating still. Like it's just not something that happens because you're not going into this fire room, search. You're searching where people are going to be, and you're quick, you're nimble, your head's up, what's going on. Like it's just not this big horror story that we're told in school, that you get off that line, you get off the wall, you're dead. Like that's just not how it happens.
It's the fear that has been driven in the Fire 1 and 2, if you're searching on a line, being up against the wall, hand on boot, all that bullshit. It's like when we're doing that primary, it's rapid. People don't understand, I think we talked about it a lot at that search school that you came to. You're doing like a VES and you're kind of searching that one room doing your primary. It's a rapid 10 to 15 second search of a room. And you shouldn't be so locked in on searching every little thing. We're trying to go through quickly, methodically, and trying to just get that primary done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the big thing that I look back at my Fire 1 and 2, it was all the hand on boot stuff, and it was all that. And it's like, this shit don't make any sense. Why are we going to do this and take 20 minutes to get something done that can be done in 5?
Absolutely.
Like it's just that openness that people need to have, with that open mentality, and not fear being inside a structure without a line. Understanding fire behavior, understanding, that flow path, and, the building construction and all that type of things, that if you have knowledge of those things and you start tying the search aspect into it, it's going to come full circle, and you're going to be able to be a competent firefighter to be able to search.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I love the rabbit hole. And the next question is probably going to continue us down the rabbit hole because it's along the same line. So we're going to move on to that one and keep diving in. So what tools are you grabbing for your primary?
So this has changed a little bit for me, just going from the paid on call volunteer world to the full time. I'm going to grab a set of irons every time. Depending on the situation, you know, if it's, I might grab a can off the truck, but more so just going to be a set of irons. And that's going to be typically what I'm going to take.
Solid. I'm definitely I'll grab, so it's I've got to kind of feel it out again with switching the departments, but we've got our irons in a can and back, which is really nice. But our irons don't marry, like it's an older Halligan and a Pro Bar, or an older axe and a Pro Bar, and they don't marry well together, so we have a strap on them.
Yep.
So the strap it works but it's the only way that you can really carry them together, because then they fall apart. They don't slide. So right now I grabbed both of those, and like the last one I just chucked them as far as I could to the door, because then I had to stretch the line. But where I was going with that is typically for your primary, I'm grabbing the Halligan and a can. So I'll leave the axe at the door, and that's where I would grab those. I have my own axe. I don't have it at my department now, but I had it, and I took that for a long time. And then I think my last fire is when in Beaver Dam was when I switched it up, and it was hard because I liked the axe because of how light it was, but if I found a door, if I found something that I needed to force, it was a little harder to do with the axe. There was one fire I did it, but I just busted the shit out of the door with the axe.
Right.
Like, that was how I got it to work. But so that's changed a little bit for me too. But yeah, especially not having that axe where, you know, I paid money for that, so I felt like I always had to bring it in.
Right.
Now it's just I take that strap off, and it's Halligan and can. So, but yeah, it's like you said, it's the same.
For me, I think right now it's kind of that learning process. Going from the paid on call volunteer world that, unless we had known victim, we weren't searching, you know, to where I'm still learning the ins and outs, because I've only been actually on the engine for a little over a month now.
Yeah, same here.
So it's some of those things that I'm still feeling it out. I'm still trying to, you know, understand how everything's going, but it's one of those things that it's always trying to progress, and you might find new things that work and other things that don't, or something that works better. Like you said, you know, you always took your axe in, and now you've kind of switched up to the Halligan. It's just learning those things as you go through your career that are going to maybe help out a little bit more than maybe another tool that you'd be taking in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. We are going to move on to the closing questions now. So we got our question from our last guest, which was Nick Peppard for you. And then you will have to come up with your own question, which will be for Hatrup, John Hatrup. He's from Wichita. Great dude. We've gotten to meet him quite a few times, and he's a smoke diver. So, you know, he's badass. But no, he's a great guy. We're excited to have him on there. He's always a good time, and yeah, we like to give him shit for the smoke diver, which is, you know, I think just a way of saying we wish we were you, but
right.
we're working on it. But that's, you know, like everything, you get the Fargo smoke divers, everything. Everybody who's not, you're always gonna poke fun, and he takes it in stride, and it's great. And that course, Brett and I are gonna go for it next year. And going for Indy, but it's impressive as all hell. And the dude, he embodies it. He's an instructor there now. He is just a fucking badass dude. So,
oh yeah.
First question from Nick for you is, where do you want to be in the next 5 years of your career, and what are you doing to prepare yourself for the opportunity?
Oh, so. Truthfully, I guess in the next 5 years, I really just want to I'd like to just make sure that I'm on that path of still passionate and wanting to learn and trying to go to conferences and, you know, build that knowledge up more than what I have now. Try to go to, you know, a lot of the conferences I've been to have just been lecture based, and I'd like to try to get to more of the hot classes, the some of those things. You know, I saw just the other day firemanship posted that they're doing Can Confidence again next year. It's like trying to go to hot classes like that, bettering myself, striving to, you know, push forwards and be better each and every day. That would be probably my biggest thing, that where I would like to be, is just keep going to these conferences and keep learning and striving. I would have to say right now, in my mindset, I love the back seat and I don't really want to be anywhere else. So in 5 years, that's kind of the same place I'd like to be, is in the back seat, and maybe being a mentor for somebody, you know, coming in too, and some of those things. So
yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. All right. So now it is up to you. So you have to come up with a question for John for next episode. You can gear it towards advice that you would like, a question you think you would have a good answer to, a question maybe you wish that you asked day one. But whatever it is, you will have to answer it on our next episode.
Okay. Oh, give me a minute on this one.
It's the hardest question we got. It's always the one that gets everybody.
Right?
You said you've seen some episodes, so you should have had a little bit of a heads up. You shouldn't be too surprised.
I knew it was coming. I just, you know, so I guess my question would be, what point in your career did you realize training was important, and what are some of the things, the biggest things that you have gained from training?
All right. Awesome. You'll have a lot of good answers for that one. That's for sure. Awesome. Well, yeah, that wraps up all the questions that we have. So the last part is our kitchen table, which is just kind of anything that you want to touch on a little more from the episode. Any trainings you want to shout out, go ahead and shout out your co-founded training, so that hopefully next year we can get some more people there. I know I want to check it out, but yeah, the rest is anything that you just want to add, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good. So like we talked a little bit about that conference that I'm co-founder of. It's Heart of the Lakes Fire Summit. It is happening next weekend, which this will be out before or after that happens. But we're doing a 2-day deal this year, with like Ladine, Rothmeyer, Rob Fisher, and Romagus. And then JD's doing a little thing too.
Oh, it's such a good presentation.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked for that, for being able to bring that into, you know, my area, and just trying to get some of this knowledge out there and trying to open up, you know, people's minds a little bit more and things like that. And we are planning on doing it next year. We do have a couple stellar instructors penciled in for next year.
Awesome.
So I think next year it'll be the 26th and 27th of September.
Okay.
It'll be another 2 days, kind of what we're planning. Probably another 4 instructors, all lecture based for now. We hope to get towards the hot side, but that's probably a couple years out.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a few.
And that's probably the big one for me.
Awesome. Yeah, like you said, I'm really excited to try and get up there next year. Should be pretty settled down then. Hopefully, I pass probation a second time, and then we'll and then be able to hop back in the conference and the training. So it's been really cool that this department that I'm on now, we're very into training as well. So outside trainings, they're encouraged, instructing all that. I will shout out for myself because it'll be October 12th. So this will be out beforehand. This will be very last minute. If we have openings, check it out. Around north of Wisconsin, we're doing a farm rescue training. So that's with a good buddy of mine. Went through fire school with him. He's created a fantastic course, and he's just now brought me on as the second instructor. And yeah, it was all about tractors and extrication from tractors and all fun farm rescue stuff that we deal with in the Midwest a lot. So
Right.
we're looking to keep running that. We got a couple courses this year that we're doing it. This one's open to everyone until spots fill up. I don't know about the other one this year, but yeah, check it out. Cool trainings, like I said, they're just starting to pop up everywhere. So it's been awesome. Been a real cool opportunity.
It's definitely one thing that I've picked up on, is these outside trainings are almost just as important, if not more important than, some of that company level stuff that you're doing at your own department. Being able to get outside and kind of learn from other departments and things like that. And
absolutely,
that way we don't create that cesspool inside the department, and that close mentality and things like that. My deputy chief I've had talks with him, and it's like I talked to him about trying to go out to Great Lakes Hot next year, and I want to go to firemanship next year, and go to these conferences that I have nothing but good things about,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just keep that open mind and keep that drive alive, because
absolutely,
that's one thing I've noticed a little bit, even with the paid on call volunteer world. You're just doing stuff within your department, you kind of get narrow-minded, and that you almost kill that passion a little bit.
Yeah.
So being able to get outside your department and be able to go to these trainings, whether it's smaller trainings or even some of these big ones, it's useful, and any bit of information that you can take from these conferences is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on the episode and for sharing some knowledge. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. Really excited to get you on here and let you share your story, because I know at the time it taught me a lot and got me really into what I love to do now. So I was really excited that we were able to work this out and get you to share it, and hopefully have that same thing for a lot of other people. So
yep. And I think that's one thing that after that whole story happened with that call, and then getting that idea a year later to do that search school and bring in like Jeff Bryant and Rothmeyer and Ledeen and all them guys, that it's like, and then after the fact, getting the feedback of that story kind of made a difference in a lot of people that came to that class. It's like, and that's, I don't talk about it a lot because it's one of those experiences that, never thought I'd deal with 3 years in.
Yep.
But it was definitely a turning point in my career, and it really made me realize how much I truly do love the job.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. 30 years in, same mentality. That's what we're going for, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's the goal. So,
awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time and for coming on and sharing your story. Yeah, you guys check out Heart of the Lakes next year. I'll try and be there. I know Brennan's going to try and be there. Everybody should try and be there. So, especially you're from around here, let's do it. Midwest just keeps getting better and better with training. So let's keep supporting
Absolutely.
them.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, as always, don't be a shitbag.